We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. Do that, we'll be all right.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Football University here on the CTS-Sports room with me, Matt Caddell, your de facto professor, where we talk just about everything football A to Z. That's what we do is for all the football heads. And yes, of course, we bring it back to the one and only Crimson Tide. So, yes, get in the comment section, tell a friend. You know, just you all tuning in means a lot to me, and us keeping this thing going. So we already got a few comments rocking and rolling in the comment section. Jeff Stapleton says, listen, hey, what's up, Matt? Stallions 7-0, giddy up. Yeah, the Birmingham Stallions, we're going to keep the tradition going. Seems like, Jeff, whenever you shot them out, they stay undefeated. So we'll keep rolling with the Stallions. But Stallions had a big game this weekend versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. You know, it was a big reunion for A.J. McCarron, two-time national champion, Heisman finalist. Listen, you know, he's been doing great with, you know, last year the St. Louis Battlehawks in the XFL, now the UFL. We know the USFL, the XFL merged. You have the UFL, and they were, I think, number 2 in the division in the whole UFL. But it was a big time game going back and forth between Birmingham, the Stallions, and the Battlehawks. Hard-fought games. I wouldn't be surprised these guys meet up in the championship. But listen, A.J. McCarron made plays. You know, it came down to a 4th down play. Guy from the Stallions knocked the ball down, you know, and that kind of ended the game. But, you know, shouts out to the Stallions. I think it's great for the city of Birmingham. I think they led in attendance for, I guess, week 2. So the Stallions, they're making a big deal in the UFL. Hopefully they can be the first team to win the UFL championship, kind of be a three-peat. Got a thing rolling down here in Birmingham. So shouts out to the Stallions, giddy up, and Roll Tide as always. So speaking about Roll Tide, we have a ton to discuss regarding Alabama. We're going to start with, we've got a lot of NFL talk. Obviously, the schedule release is coming out. Got some things that's come out regarding a few sneak peeks and some games that have been released, opening kickoff. Rookie minicamp, a lot of guys from Latham, Terrion, Arnold, Turner. A lot of those guys have reported for minicamp, rookie minicamp, Kool-Aid, Braswell's of sorts, and we're going to just really dive in and break down those guys. And we're going to discuss some contract talks, you know, some matchups, all those things regarding the NFL. And what else I was going to say? So we got that. We got NFL. Shouts out to Lori Caddell. She says RTR. We're going to discuss NFL. We got to discuss obviously Alabama. Alabama kind of had probably start the show with this. Some portal news over the weekend. Some exciting news. I'm glad to see about those guys and some comments regarding, Jalen Milroe. He's kind of been on the media circuit. Busting with the boys came to Tuscaloosa. So he had some comments. We'll discuss Courtney Morgan's comments. He did an interview with 24/7 Sports. And Regions Tradition was this past week, the big golfing event, raising charity money for Children's Hospital of Alabama, which is a great, golfing event. And Coach Saban and Kalen DeBoer were there. So we're going to kind of discuss Regis Tradition, DeBoer's comments, Coach Saban's comments, and some other things regarding Alabama. It's all what we do here at the Crimson Tide. So we got, like I said, we have an action-packed show. So listen, let's get it started. I know y'all tired of me just talking about what we're going to discuss, but let's get right into it. Jeff Saban says, Roll Tide, Lori. So let's get to my first topic. So over the weekend, I mentioned that obviously Alabama, we mentioned last week that, obviously Tony Mitchell hit the portal, Peyton Woodyard hit the portal, eventually going to Oregon, up there with Danny Lanning. And so we needed some voids to be filled here in Tuscaloosa, and we got some big names. We were able to fill 3 big names, which I think is going to be so beneficial for Alabama to really help with depth. So let's start in the secondary room. Obviously, Jane King, the DB from Penn State, who's a former 4-star safety coming out of the state of Florida, really from St. Thomas Aquinas High School, guys like Dallas Turner, Jordan Battle come from that high school. So really helping that St. Thomas Aquinas to Tuscaloosa pipeline with the addition of Jane King coming in the transfer portal from Penn State. I heard this guy is an elite special teams player, started as a true freshman at Penn State in all 13 games. So I think we're going to get a lot of a lot of experience on that end from King, the DB from Penn State. So I know that's going to help fill a void. I think that's going to help with a lot of depth and experience. And also we got Deshaun Jones out of the portal, the talented cornerback from Wake Forest. I believe he had like two picks the past couple of years, 3 picks or so. He brings a lot of experience. He's very physical. And in this 4-2-5 defense under Kane Womack, he's going to be able to do a lot of different things as well with a lot of different talent that we already have. You look at guys like Xavier Mincy, Damani Jackson, who we're going to discuss, Xavier Brown. We got so many young talent. We might not have the experience, but these guys, you're able to get experience, Power 5 guys who played experience in college football on the big level now can come fill holes where we need in depth. So I'm excited about those 2 guys. So we were able to fill 2 voids in the secondary. But listen, we were able to add DeMarc, the offensive lineman from Michigan. I believe he started in 8 games or whatnot up there in East Lansing, Michigan, for the Spartans. So that's going to be a lot. I know we've got Caden Proctor. He came into the portal. He's coming back to Tuscaloosa. So, listen, I'm excited about this team. I think we're going to need that depth. And I think Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, the coaching staff, Molinquist, the whole coaching staff did an amazing job identifying potential talent and bringing in the right talent for Tuscaloosa. So that's some of the portal news. I don't know if we're actually done yet, so we might see some guys. But if you look at the addition, we lost Will Reichert, who we discuss later, probably the top kicker in the country, obviously the NCAA point leader. we signed the top kicker from Miami of Ohio. So we've really filled a lot of voids in this portal, and I'm excited what Alabama's going to look like, putting it all together in under Coach Kalen DeBoer's first season on the capstone down here in T-Town. So let's get to a few more comments. Velma Stuttermeyer says, roll tide, Velma Stuttermeyer. Latoya Billingsley says, roll tide, my guy, roll tide chat, roll tide, Latoya, roll tide to the chat. Wet Wheel Sports, listen, shouts out to Wet Wheel Sports. They do an amazing job. If you want those famous, infamous title towels that you see on Tuscaloosa, listen, go to Wet Wheel Sports. They do an amazing job. WetWheelSports.com. Love those guys. Thanks for tuning in. Went for Caddell. Caddell says roll tide. Roll tide. Cedric Caddell says roll tide. Got all Caddell's RTR. Jeff Stapleton says, listen, the players that left Bama never seen the field. I mean, it is what it is. Some guys leave, they go make the name for themselves. You look, I think guys will be good, but I think guys are gonna miss out on playing with those Alabama brothers. Kind of shift to gears to Courtney Morgan, kind of leads me to my next topic. So we discussed the transfer report and Alabama staff, but I mentioned Courtney Morgan, him being the general manager, knowing how to put together a roster, his background coming from Michigan and all those guys being with Kalen DeBoer, Fresno State, kind of being with him, knowing how to build a championship roster, put them together. But he was interviewed on 24/7 Sports. And he just discussed, kind of some of his philosophies. He was discussing recruiting, transfer portal, all those good things. But some things that really stood out for me regarding Courtney Morgan, just basically what he was saying, how the discussing the transfer portal, basically talking about how you use the transfer portal, like you don't need to rely everything on the portal. He's like, first and foremost, you have to be able to recruit high school talent, and I thought that was very important in this whole NIL transfer portal era, where it seems teams, you look at teams who just really built their team off the portal. You look at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, basically, he wrote checks. Ohio State kind of have a combination of both, but he was great to hear him talk about his philosophies, his reasoning, how him and Kalen DeBoer identify talent in the transfer report, and they look at guys who have Power 5 experience, and and will they be a good fit? Do they have the great work ethic, and how they play? Do they have experience? So I thought that was very huge to kind of hear, some of his philosophy, some of Courtney Morgan's mindset. And this is a great interview that he did with 24/7 Sports. Also, he talked about, I mentioned earlier how he says it's still important to recruit high school talent at the high school level to be successful. He says, listen, we're in the out state of Alabama. It's so much talent in the state of Alabama, and with the 5-hour radius around, you got Georgia, you have Mississippi, Florida, Tennessee, so much talent. Louisiana, you have so much talent that you have to identify and make sure you handle top recruits. And they're obviously doing an amazing job with recruits. And, he sent out cryptic tweets regarding Alabama guys. He says it's going to be tweeted out, it's going to be a cold summer. So listen, I say all this to brag about Coach Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, his staff, that I believe Alabama is in the exact right hands to be successful moving forward. And so that's, I just want to discuss Courtney Morgan. So let's get to a few more of you all's comments here in the chat. Yes, Jeff Stapleton, he is he is addressing the issues at every position. I mean, if you look overall, I think we brought in, 8 or 9 guys from the portal, guys that we lost, and bringing in. We've got a lot of guys. And, just listening to Kalen DeBoer, I mentioned him, being at the Regions tradition. Let's go ahead and shift their gears. That's kind of the big deal, the big sporting event in Birmingham, big golfing sporting event. Kalen DeBoer there, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Hugh Freeze, all the guys on the Champions Tour. Champions Tour is basically your older golfers, guys who, graduated or at that seniority level, but they're still on the tour just for the older guys. But it's a great tournament. Kalen DeBoer, he was discussing guys, saying he's so excited to see Ryan Williams work with him under Jamarcus Shepard, add him to the receiving room. And also, he made comments about, just feeling needs, feeling that whole regarding the roster. And he said, listen, he's excited about the roster. So to your point, yes, DeBoer has addressed each issue in different positions, and I think it's going to pay off for us. So speaking about DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, the staff, filling positions, something in that Courtney Morgan interview that I thought was really good was how he mentioned Caden Proctor. I think it might have been either him or Kalen DeBoer, but one of them said that they were so excited to have him come back to Tuscaloosa. And Caden Proctor felt like he was missing playing with his brothers. And I think that's what a lot of guys that left Alabama are going to miss, playing with those brothers that you built, went in the work in, sweat and tears, emotional roller coaster, highs and lows you put in the sweat. You went building so many bonds and relationships and continuity and chemistry, brotherhood with your guys that, it's hard for you to just up and leave just because, circumstances cause it. And I just think that speaks volume for Kalen Proctor to come back to Tuscaloosa, saying that he missed his brothers and he wanted to, finish what he started. So I want to discuss that as well. So let's get to a few comments. Wow, thank you guys, chat. Wet Will Sports says, absolutely. Wet Will Sports, I'm excited about getting my title towel. I can shout you guys out here on the Football University. Yes, listen, let's get it rolling. Let's get that title towel. Let's see. RTR Douglas Caddell. So we got a great comment right here. James Knox says, he says, how do you think this team compares to his Washington team from a talent perspective? I think it's second to none. I think it's light and day. I think Kalen DeBoer was able to get a lot of talent and develop a lot of talent at Washington, but I think he has so much more talent at his disposal in Tuscaloosa. I mean, I think, I'll make the analogy to this. I feel like he had to make more lemonade with lemons, with less lemons in Washington, whereas in Tuscaloosa, you got 5-star lemons everywhere. You're getting the best lemons that you can get in the best lemon area, the Lemon State recruiting conference. You got it all. And so I think from a talent level, that Alabama's probably has more talent, but I think from that being said, that just shows you how great Kalen DeBoer of a coach Kalen DeBoer is, because he had lesser talent at Washington, but yet he had them in the national championship, So, he beat Sark twice. He beat Sark in 2 years. He beat Danny Lanning in 2 years, twice in 1 year. So he didn't have nowhere near the talent as those teams, and he was still able to dominate and beat those guys. So that shows you the level of development, football IQ, what type of coaching pedigree he has. I mean, this guy loves to win. So just now you take him from that, having that mindset, being able to develop even that much better talent is going to be a great situation for Alabama for years to come. And I think he's excited to be here in Tuscaloosa, down here in Alabama. So great question right there. Let's get to this comment. It says, have you heard anything about Drake or Patrick from anybody at Alabama? No, I haven't. I just know Drake or Patrick Jr. is the real deal. I mean, he had an interception, i.e., it was called back in the spring game, 8A game. But listen, he's just a ball hog. I think he's so underrated. And I think you look at guys like Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., Red Morgan, I think those guys kind of the reason guys like a Peyton Woodyard and possibly Tony Mitchell left. I mean, they saw these guys coming in actually probably beating them out for their position. So I think Drake or Patrick Jr. is a phenomenal talent. Just so smart, has such a great football pedigree, obviously from his dad, Drake Kirkpatrick, NFL national champion. I mean, he did it all. One of the top cornerbacks in Tuscaloosa, as well as the NFL when he was in his tenure in the league. But you look at his pedigree, you look at his son's pedigree, his ball savviness, how to, just know how to play the position. He's going to be getting a lot of play today. I'm excited about him. We got some young guys, Brayson Hubbard, Red Morgan, who I mentioned, Keon Sapp, Malachi Moore. I think we're going to be able to do a lot of We're going to be very versatile on the defensive end, especially in the secondary, really kind of switch things up on opposing offenses. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. So let's get to my next Brian Green says, what's up, guys? Long time no see. It's good to see you. Have you in here, Brian Green. It's been a while. It's going to be exciting to see. So Damani Jackson in defense. So speaking of Damani Jackson, he was on a podcast and he was just talking about, his college career. He was a big time recruit coming out of modern day high school. And he ended up going to USC and discussing, how he had silently committed to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but ended up going to USC and how he had to tell Coach Saban the news and all that stuff. So, excuse me, but he discussed when he made the, got in the portal and made the transition to come to Alabama, how it was such a big difference from USC out in the Pac-12 as opposed to the SEC, and not just any SEC school, the premier school, Alabama, Roll Tide. And he discussed 8A. He said, listen, he said they were doing the Walk of Champions coming up, and he said it was so packed. He said it was fans everywhere. He's like, I'm not used to this. And then he says, when he comes out, he said basically the stadium was almost packed except for all the way up to the top. And he's like, this is insane. He's not used to that. So that just shows you different level from the Pac-12 to the SEC, especially at Alabama. The level of excitement, how much we care about football in the state of Alabama. But it's good to hear Damani Jackson's comments. But he discussed, 8A, the excitement, the energy around the program here at Alabama, and how one thing I love about it, just listening to him, how he said he was, he wanted to be around the best. Like, obviously USC, you can say they're one of the blue blood programs, along with Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. It's like 5 or 6 blue bloods. I'll possibly add USC. But for him to leave USC and say he wants to come and be around the best competitively and play against guys being in the best conference, I think that means a lot about Damani Jackson. I think he's going to have a really, really exciting year this year in our defense in Kane Womack's 425. So he made some amazing comments, just got me really riled up. And I think he's going to be one of the better. I think he's going to set the tone for the secondary and, really help these guys come along. Because the better our secondary comes along, the even more dominant Alabama is going to be on the football field. So let's go to you all's comments. Let's see. Thanks for the comment, Jeff Stapleton. He says, Brian Green, glad to have you back. He says he was injured and wasn't able to show what he was, what he's got. He's healthy now. I think, obviously, he was probably injured, to your point, Brian Green. But listen, him now being in Tuscaloosa, being able having to compete at that level, go against top talent. USC, Lincoln Riley really didn't care about the defensive scheme. To me, it seems like I don't think he cares about offense, but now he's going to be locked in with the Crimson Tide under Kane Womack's defense. So, yeah, I'm excited to have Damani Jackson. Just listen to that interview, some of the clips. He's becoming one of my favorite players for this team. So we mentioned Kalen DeBoer, Coach Saban, Regions Golf. Now, a clip that went kind of viral, which I thought was pretty funny. It showed the SEC coaches that were there, Saban, DeBoer, Kirby, Hugh, and they did a side-by-side to see who had the better swing. And I got to say, Saban held his own. Kalen DeBoer had a good swing. Kirby had a good swing. But Hugh Freeze, oh, man, his swing was about as probably worse than my golf swing. Almost. It's just a funny, swing. But I want to discuss that. Just shout out to the Regents tradition, what they do for the SEC. So let's see. Let's get to a few more of you guys' comments. Before I get to that, let's discuss we mentioned Damani Jackson. He was doing some interviews. Obviously, last week, around college football, the big buzz is the new college football EA Sports game. You see players saying they're into the game, and one deluxe edition of the cover dropped this past week, and it had guys like Edwards from Michigan, Jalen Milroe made the cover, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers is on the cover, Travis Hunter, the talented DB from Colorado, is on the cover. So it's very exciting. A lot of college football fans cannot wait for this game to come out. And it's very exciting. So it's good to see Milroe on there. But speaking of Milroe, busting with the boys, guys with Barstool Sports, they have they were in Tuscaloosa, and they interviewed Milroe, and they asked him, how do you feel about, being in Kalen DeBoer's offense? And he basically said he has confidence in whether it's throwing, running the ball, in this offensive system to be very effective. And I'm thinking sky's the limit for Jalen Milroe in this offense, just because he has the offensive-minded guys around him that truly believe in him and have confidence in him. You believe in yourself, but we have other people like your coaches believe in you and help develop you, working on your passing game, things like that, how to read the defense, when to throw the ball, when not to throw it. I think that is going to be so beneficial for Jalen Milroe. And I want to highlight that as well, those comments regarding DeBoer's, Nick Sheridan's offense. And another thing I thought was really kind of interesting to see, which I thought was a really good quote. They asked him, how do you feel about Michigan winning the national championship? and beating you guys, knowing they had this whole cheating scandal with Connor Stallions. And he's like, listen, they won. Whatever it is, I'm not too worried about it. They beat us, so they got the job done, and we didn't. I thought that showed a lot of level of maturity from Jalen Milroe, how to handle situations and things like that. So, yeah, Milroe, I'm excited to see him put that Michigan game, learn from it. As Coach Saban says, don't waste the failure, learn from it, and hopefully that propels him to bringing Alabama national championship. I think that's kind of what he's mainly more focused, more so than the Heisman. So let's get to a few more of you guys' comments. What Will Sports says, yes, sir, back at you. Joe Stapleton says, which wide receiver running back will separate himself from the pack? When you just let's start with running backs. Now, I think running backs kind of going to be a three-headed monster. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, and Richard Young. We all saw those guys look very explosive, physical in the A-day game. So I think those kind of guys have kind of separated themselves. As far as the freshman running backs, I think Daniel Hills is kind of going to be the next guy up. So don't be surprised that we have kind of like a 4-guy rotation, but I think majority of the guys going to be getting the bulk of the load is going to be Miller, Haynes, and Richard Young. Now, wide receiver, you're looking at, it's a lot. Obviously, Jermaine Bernard, he was the only receiver to go for over 100 yards in the A-Day game. I think he's got a lot of rapport with Jalen Milroe. You look at guys like Caleb Odom, who moved from tight end to receiver. I think he's just going to be an ultimate chess piece for us. Unfortunately, Jalen Hale got injured in the spring, but Kendrick Law is going to be sensational. Kobe Prentice is going to be sensational in this offense. So you're looking at guys like Bernard, Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law. Just Kendrick Law is finally going to be used like a Deebo Samuels in this offense. So, and then you got the incoming freshmen. You got guys. Well, don't forget the guys like Emmanuel Henderson. He could do a lot. He made a lot of noise. But then you got the incoming freshman. I mentioned Kalen DeBoer, how excited he is to have Ryan Williams, Hollywood Williams coming in from Saraland High School, Mr. Football 2-time, reclassified from a junior to his senior year. And I think he's gonna be in campus this week. So I think a lot of the freshmen are coming in early to be enrolled. So it's so exciting times. You got guys like Ryan Williams. Don't sleep on Rico Scott, the talented wide receiver from Pennsylvania, I believe, and Amari Jefferson, who's just a pure athlete coming from Baylor High School up there in Chattanooga. So I think it's going to be a lot of guys that's probably initially we're going to be versatile, but if I had to pick 4 to 6 receivers, I'm going Bernard, Law, Prentice, definitely Caleb Odom. I just think he's going to be a piece that he's going to be like Travis Kelce for us in the offense, whether we can line him up at wide, put him in tight. We can do a lot of different things to confuse defenses. Then you look at Hollywood Williams, Emmanuel Henderson, Rico Scott, and Amari Jefferson. So hopefully that gives you some insight regarding who will possibly separate the pack. So we got another great comment from you guys. He says, I'm interested in the defensive line play. I don't think the GOAT had players like Curry Copeland. Are we back like Warren Lau were at the Bulls? A great question. I like that comment right there. I will say this defensive line, I think that's probably one of our deepest positions in the defense. You look at guys like before I give you the depth positions, let me talk about the 4-2-5 defense. So you got the bandit, you got the defensive end, you got the Wolf, you got the defensive tackle position as well. So we have so many different body types that we can rotate, we can use. You look at guys like Jaheim Otis, Tim Keenan, um, Jordan Renard, Latham, LT Overton, the talent we got from Texas A&M. We know Perry hit the portal, but we got so many guys that are coming in that are really Demond Payne. So we have different body types. And in this 4-2-5 defense, I think one thing we're going to get back to is the defensive line just wreaking havoc. From what I've heard all spring, those guys have been physical. They've been disruptive. And so, um, listen, I'm excited about the D line. I think we have plenty of depth, different types of guys we can rotate, move around, and really make a lot of noise. And that's not even including the guys, freshmen that are coming in early enrolling in the summer. So very excited about those guys, but I do think Alabama is going to get back to being dominant, and they're going to be freeing up a lot of guys, on the defensive front to be physical. Because, in the SEC, that's what it's about. You got to be physical up front, offensively and defensively. And that's something Courtney Morgan addressed in that interview, saying, listen, you got to solidify up front with those big guys, both offensively and defensively. And I think we've addressed all of those needs from a line perspective. So hopefully that answers your question. Great comment right there. Cedric Caddell. Let's see. Jeff Stapleton says, yes, defense is changing. Yeah, you have to be big and fast, keep up with the fast-paced offense. In this era of college football, yeah, I think this is the offensive era of college of football, basically. You even look at the NFL on the professional level. You look at how the game is kind of catered to offense. So you're defensively, you have to be so versatile and multiple, where you got to be able to defend and handle all these different types of defenses. And I think in this 4-2-5, we're going to be able to throw a lot at opposing offenses to shut them down and really kind of confuse them with personnel. You might not know where the blitz, where the pressure's coming, who's going to be coming from the defensive line, so which type of stunts. So it's going to be, to your point, I think in this offensive era of football, you have to have unique style of defense to stop it. So it'd be great to see how Alabama does that this year. Woo, we got a lot of comments. Thank you guys. What Will Sports says, Jam, Justice, Richard Young, just what I was saying. Oh, yeah, great comment right here. The Wisconsin game is 11 a.m. kickoff Central Standard Time, 12 a.m. noon kickoff on Fox Sports. That's going to be a big game. That's kind of that Fox noon kickoff kind of kicks off college football Saturday, right after college football game day. But I think Fox Sports game day is going to be, big noon kickoff is going to be at 3 different games. Texas, Michigan, Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama, Wisconsin. So, but that Alabama, Wisconsin game is going to be huge. I'm not a big fan of the early games, but yeah, I get it. I thought it was going to be more of a prime time game, but you got media rights, all those guys, Big Ten, Fox, they probably wanted that big game to have them. So that's going to be a big time game for Alabama. I think if Alabama, going back to the football team, if they can handle that game on the road in Madison, Wisconsin, I think that's going to set up for the next week, having Georgia rolling in town. I think that's going to help prepare us for the season. Having such a tough opponent in a Big Ten matchup on the road in Madison, Wisconsin. So, yeah, 11 a.m. kickoff. So make sure y'all get y'all rest the night before. Listen, Brian Green, a lot of running back talk. He says, listen, our backs will eat Richard Young, reminds me of the baby Rhino, aka Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on right there. I definitely see, to your point, I definitely see Jam Miller with a little Josh Jacobs in him as well. Regarding Justice Haynes, he kind of gives me a little bit more like a Mark Ingram in his prime, but just more of a more quicker lateral step, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm excited about these guys. Yeah. Listen, Jeff Saban, to my point says, yeah, Jam reminds me of Jacobs, the way he carries the ball and the running style. Richie Young is just, I don't think we've seen, I don't know if we have a running back to kind of compare him that's come through Tuscaloosa. I'm just trying to think. I just think he's kind of in his own, um, he's in his own area when it comes to Alabama running backs. I don't know who you can compare him to. Let me know who y'all compare him to. Brian Green said Jam is good, but Young, especially Haynes, has a crazy jump cut. Yeah, they have an amazing jump cut. Like I said, that lateral quickness from Haynes, just as Haynes was working out, showed some videos, him putting in the work, a lot of players working. So listen, I'm excited about this team. You know, even Kalen DeBoer said they interviewed him, I think, at Regents Tradition, and he said, listen, a lot of the guys are going together, working out together in different facilities with trainers across the company, across the country, and they're being accompanied by their teammates. So, listen, I'm excited. I'm excited about our running backs. I'm excited about this offensive playbook, this offensive scheme. I think it's going to be very effective. I think Alabama, a lot of teams and pundits are going to write Alabama off. And listen, don't sleep on Alabama. Looking like a totally different team and looking more effective, especially creatively from an offensive schematic standpoint. Jeff Stapleton says, Lost showed a lot of growth in the spring game. And guys, you got to remember the spring game, Nick Sheridan had conversations with him, all those guys the night before. Listen, they are vanilla. I can only imagine about this playbook and how it changes week to week. We don't have to worry about, Bill O'Brien and Tommy Reese. We have Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan, offensive gurus, and Brian Ellis, who came from Western Kentucky, who was the offensive coordinator at Western Kentucky when Bailey Zappi threw for almost 60 touchdowns. Then we have Brian Ellis goes to Georgia Southern to be the offensive coordinator there as well. So now he's the tight ends coach. So we have three coaches that really know how to put in a really good offensive scheme. And Kalen DeBoer doesn't shy from any game plan, know how to attack any type of defense, whatever. He'll go up against the best. You look at his record versus Danny Lanning. Look at his record versus Steve Sarkisian. Listen, I think we're in the right hands, and I'm excited about. But Kendrick Law, I think he's, like I said, back to my, I didn't mean to get off, but Kendrick Law will finally be utilized as a Debo Samuel. We've been saying it for the past 2 years here at Football University, how Kendrick Law can be used in the backfield. He could be used in the slot. He could be used out wide. He could be used in so many jet sweeps, so many crazy things offensively you can do to mix up personnel. We finally have the offensive minds that can do that. And I think look for Kendrick Law to have an exceptional piece in this, be an exceptional component in this offense under Kalen DeBoer's offense, Nick Sheridan offense. So I'm excited. Brian Green says Haynes has some crazy footwork. He does. Van Edwards says, he says, roll tide, Van Edwards. Brian Green says, Law will be a problem. Ryan Williams will clear out whatever side of the field he's on. Yeah, it's going to be dynamic. it's going to be dynamic, our offense. But what gets me so excited, we finally have offensive minds who can confuse so many defenses. It's like great coaching. You remember when we had it's like we have all the weapons and we got great offensive minds. It's like we're gonna be so, I don't want to say the word unstoppable, but it's going to be hard to stop Alabama just because of the creativity, the aggressiveness at offense, throwing it, the create innovativeness, the trickiness. Like, we're going to do so many things to confuse, and it's going to be week to week. So it's going to be exciting. I'm excited about Alabama's offense for sure. Excuse me, Jeff Saberton says Overton on the Lions game time experience. I'm excited to see him. Yeah, LT Overton, former #1 player in the country, signs with Texas A&M, but is there for a year. Jimbo Fisher gets the boot, and he's in Tuscaloosa, so it works out for us. Van Edwards says, I ain't trucking up by 11 a.m. Oh, man, Van, you're going to have to make sure you get your rest. That's the most important. Get your rest, hydrate, do what you want to do. Whatever you do, bring Alabama home a victory. Roll us a victory. M. Davis says, RTR. Van Jones says, Van Edwards says, we're going to take Chris James on the basketball court. He's been talking big, laughing my butt off. Listen, that's kind of been a sneaky debate. Speaking of Alabama, not Alabama, but football players, can they play basketball? And basketball players, can they play football? So that's kind of been a big debate in the sports world. From guys like Ryan Krok. I think Austin Rivers started the conversation. So, listen, I'll tell you this, that basketball conditioning is like no joke. I remember when I played high school basketball, and basketball season would start during football season. So, like, I have to, like, leave football practice and go to basketball practice. And when I tell you basketball conditioning, suicides, I would be so tired. I'd be like, "Ooh, this is intense," but it helped pave the way for playoff time in football season. But yeah, basketball conditioning is no joke. It's a good argument, but me right now, I don't know how good I do on the court. I'm great at horse now. I'm probably the horse All-American. But as far as running up and down the court, I'm gonna have to get my wind up under me. So listen. Jeff Saban said, I would like to see the OC on the field, not in the box. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know what DeBoer's system is going to be, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So great comments. So let's shift gears. That's why I love you guys. You guys know how to shift gears. I think we've discussed so much about Alabama football. Now let's discuss the NFL. Big news in the NFL. We just had the draft. A lot of guys are doing rookie mini camps, but Van Edwards, to your comments right here, says, I saw the thing that showed the 5 highest paid QBs this season in the NFL: Joe Burrow, Goff, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Kind of interesting. None of them have won a Super Bowl. Listen, that's what it is. And they haven't won a Super Bowl. Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Lamar hasn't. Jalen Hurts has been to the Super Bowl. But listen, it's the salary cap keeps getting increased, and it's a quarterback-driven league. If you don't have a quarterback, then you're kind of left in behind. That's why in the NFL draft, we didn't see our first defensive player drafted to pick 15, because you saw guys like Michael Penix getting drafted to the Falcons. You saw Bo Nix get drafted to the Broncos at 12. You saw J.J. McCarthy get drafted to the Vikings at 6, I believe. And obviously, Caleb Williams, all those guys, Drake May in New England. So, but speaking of quarterbacks, I discussed it, that who I think is going to be in for the next payday. I think it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa, especially looking at guys. Jared Goff just signed this big contract today. I think he gets what, like, I think contract extension of like 220 some $million. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tua is probably maybe around that 200, maybe not 220 million, but you could easily, I'm quite sure his agent um is probably trying to get to a good 3 year, 4 year deal, 200 some $1 million. But you could make the argument that Tua leading the NFL in passing. He was healthy this past year. He played all 18 games, 17 games, including the playoff game. That they got a lot. They got you got to play. So I think Tua's going to get a big time contract. Now it might not be the highest paid Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, but I think it'll be right below it. He'll probably be coming in at number 6 or 7 highest paid. I think it's going to be a lucrative deal for Tua Tagovailoa. Now, Van, to your point, I actually agree that Tua deserves to be in the top 5, in my opinion. He led the league in passing this past year. I think you go ahead and pay him now, before it gets too expensive. And the Miami Dolphins, I think Tua is going to get about a 200, maybe not. He might not get 221, but he's going to get a lucrative deal. Now, I believe he deserves to be up there, but I don't know if they're going to do it. But I'm quite sure Chris Greer, all those guys, they've been discussing contracts. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear anything this week or next week regarding Tua Tagovailoa signing a big-time deal with the Miami Dolphins. So speaking of the NFL, so the NFL, they're having their schedule released, I believe, on today's 13, 14, 15, I believe on Wednesday, the 15th, but schedule one game, opening kickoff was debuted today, I believe, earlier, that there's going to be Baltimore Ravens opening kickoff week 1 is going to have to travel to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 2-time national championship, a repeat of the AFC championship game this past year. And listen, let's talk about the Alabama guys. You think about the Baltimore Ravens, you cannot help but think about Derrick Henry coming from the Tennessee Titans. Now he's going to be in that backfield with Lamar Jackson. Listen, they have a lethal offensive scheme, and if it's me and I'm going up to Arrowhead, I'm trying to keep Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on the bench. So if it was me, I am going to run Derrick Henry about 30 times, him and Lamar Jackson. I'm not giving Mahomes the ball. I'm going to have my time of possession is going to be like 30, 35 minutes just on offense until they stop it, because I'm not giving them the ball. That's how you beat the Chiefs, in my opinion. You got to score touchdowns. That's something that we learned from in this past Super Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers just did not score enough touchdowns. Field goals are not going to be enough to beat teams when it comes to you have to score touchdowns. But listen, Derrick Henry, Marlon Humphrey, hopefully he's going to have a strong year. Baltimore Ravens in Kyle Field in Kansas City is going to be crazy. So another game that broke was opening kickoff. Is Dallas going to be playing Cleveland Browns? Now, this has Alabama written all. Speaking of Van, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. No, I do not have a Dak Prescott jersey, Van. No, I do not have a Dak Prescott jersey. But speaking of Dak Prescott and Dallas, they're going to be playing Cleveland Browns, and that is going to be a tough matchup, especially if Jerry Jones does not sign. He's got to take care of CeeDee Lamb. He's got to take care of Micah Parsons for sure. And now he's going to have to take care again Dak Prescott. But Cleveland playing Dallas, that's going to be a big-time matchup because now you get Bama on Bama matchup. You have Trevon Diggs, one of the top cornerbacks, going against Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. That's a matchup I'm excited to see. I want to see Jeudy going against Diggs. They went against each other at Bama, but I really want to see what Amari Cooper still got in the tank to let him know. Listen, I'm the go to Alabama receiver. So that's one game that's leaked, that's come out, that's got me excited. So we discussed Tua, we discussed the Ravens, Chiefs. Listen, we discussed Derrick Henry, Mahomes, Cleveland versus Dallas. We just mentioned. Now I mentioned Alabama guys. We had the draft about 2 weeks ago. Alabama guys that are in rookie mini camps. Let's start with Terrion Arnold. Terrion Arnold, he's wearing number 0, so he's going by the mantra of Agent Zero. And saw some clips of him working out. Saw another clip of him getting a pick at practice, taking it back. So he's very competitive, bringing a lot of energy and excitement. He has the personality, the charisma for the camera. But one of his quotes that went viral was talking about how him and his aunties and all them and siblings, they were so competitive growing up that, he said, listen, I know it's Mother's Day weekend. Shouts out to all the wonderful moms. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. But he said, listen, if my mom would have lined up against me, he said, I'm going to jam her into the dirt. And he's like, she knows that because that's just how she is competitive. That's how she raised him. So that quote kind of went viral. So exciting to see Agent Zero, a.k.a. Terrion Arnold, making plays, making a name for himself already in Detroit. Also, he got his high school jersey retired from his high school, and he's really close with his high school janitor. I believe Mr. Biggs is his name. So it's some cool videos about his relationship. Always not forgetting the people that helped him become where he is, and him and Mr. Biggs, that janitor. It just shows what type of humility, character that Terrion Arnold has. So, which is good. So let's get to a few more. I mentioned Terrion Arnold, rookie minicamp. J.C. Latham. He got new ink. He got a new length tattoo, which showed. And then I think, they reported, obviously, Bill Callahan, one of the top offensive line coaches. JC went number 6, 5th overall, whatever, one of the two, or 7th, I don't know, one of the two, to the Tennessee Titans. Now, this video went viral of him hitting this sled, and it's special, unique sled. I know people were trying to say, oh, he's sweet, but this sled that weighs almost 400 pounds, specially made, designed by Bill Callahan, and he showed once J.C. Latham got up under and knew how to move the sled. He was moving the sled left and right, and he's a massive human being. Trying to move a 380-pound sled is crazy, especially made by Bill Callahan, his offensive line coach. So I'm looking to see big and big, great things from J.C. Latham up there in the Titans in Nashville, Tennessee. Speaking of J.C. Latham, thank you. He was the 7th pick. Thank you, Jeff Stapleton. Let's go to the next pick. Dallas Turner reported up there in Minneapolis. News broke that he's going to be wearing number 15, so he gets to keep his college, I believe, and his high school number. And Brian Flores has already raved about him. He says he's kind of reminds him of when he was the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, coaching Dante Hightower. He said he's big, fast, and physical, and he's excited to see what he's going to do. So speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, Will Riker signed his deal with the Vikings. He signed a 4-year, $40 million deal. And he got like 171K bonus. So speaking of Mother's Day, let's go back. Let's discuss Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid had a big weekend for Mother's Day. He was able to get his mom a G-Wagon for Mother's Day from the Mercedes-Benz in Birmingham, Coach Saban's Benz. So I'm quite sure he got a good deal on that. But, you know, shouts out to the moms. Moms are amazing. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms. But Kool-Aid was able to get his mom a Mother's Day G-Wagon, Mercedes-Benz truck, and Kool-Aid signed a 4-year, $9 million deal with $3.4 million signing bonus. So I'm excited to see Kool-Aid in that New Orleans Saints defense go up against the likes of Bryce Young. It's going to be exciting to see all those Bama guys. Braswell, he's wearing number 43. He reported to Ricky Minicamp, saw some tape of him. Jermaine Burton wearing number 81 for the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, leading the receiver drills. He's looking smooth, calm and collected. I'm excited to see him. And Jace McClellan, you know, he was the 6th or 7th round pick for the Atlanta Falcons. Running back, rise up to all the Falcons fans out there. He signed a 4-year, $4.2 million deal with about almost 200K bonus, 198K bonus. So just want to highlight all the Bama guys in the NFL because that's what we do, whether it's NFL, college football. That's what we do here at Football University. Let's get a few more comments. Rise up. I know them Falcons fans are going to be out here. I know those Falcons fans are going to be out here. Rise up. So, yeah, shouts out to the Falcons fans. That's what we do. Football University. We talk NFL, college. We do it all. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for an amazing show. Shouts out to Jeff Stapleton in the comment section. Van Edwards, Lori Caddell, Bob Rutherford, Brian Green, glad to have you back. Cedric Caddell, Douglas Caddell, Bobby Caddell, Velma Stuttermeyer, Wet Wheel Sports. Go to wetwheelsports.com, get that title towel, wetwheelsports.com, title towel. Brian Green, listen, James Knox, all you guys, thank you all. Hey, let's tune in next week, same time. We're going to discuss this NFL schedule release and discuss more Alabama football and more college football here. Anything football here at Football University with me, Matt Caddell. You all have a blessed, amazing week, and I will see you all next week, same channel, same time, next Monday here on the CTS Sports Room. Have a great